Have you ever noticed how easily we shrink ourselves just to be accepted by others? How often we silence our own thoughts, hide our opinions, or pretend to be smaller than we really are just to make someone else comfortable? It starts so quietly that you barely notice it. One compromise here, a little silence there. You laugh when you don't want to. You agree just to keep the peace. And over time, that becomes who you are, someone who bends so often, you forget what it feels like to stand straight. The Stoics warned us about this kind of invisible self-betrayal. They believed that every time you trade your integrity for approval, you give away the most valuable thing you own, yourself. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." He didn't mean we should hate ourselves, he meant we must see our weaknesses clearly. And one of those weaknesses is our endless hunger for validation. We tell ourselves it's harmless to want to be liked, to be understood, to fit in. But that desire slowly chains us. Because the moment your peace depends on what someone else thinks of you, you've handed them the keys to your mind. You let them decide when you're proud, when you're ashamed, when you're enough. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoics, once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Why do we do this? Because we've been trained to see ourselves through the mirror of other people's eyes. We measure our worth by the reflection, not the reality. But Stoicism reminds us that real worth is internal. It's what you are when no one's watching, what you stand for when no one agrees, what you keep doing when no one applauds. Imagine a man walking through a storm. The winds scream against him, people shout for him to turn back, but he keeps walking calm, grounded, unwavering. The storm doesn't define his direction, his values do. That's what it means to live with inner strength. That's what it means to never lower yourself again. And that strength starts in silence. It begins when you stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand you. When you stop chasing approval that was never worth having. When you sit quietly with yourself and say, "I am enough, even if no one notices." This is the first Stoic lesson: stop seeking peace in the approval of others. You don't need to be liked to be worthy. You don't need to be seen to be valuable. You only need to stand firm in who you are. Because the moment you decide that your peace, your dignity, and your values are not negotiable, that's the moment you become untouchable. Have you ever wondered why people lose respect for you the moment you start trying too hard to earn it? Why the more you chase validation, the more invisible you seem to become? It's because the world senses desperation, and desperation always whispers one truth: you've forgotten your own value. The second Stoic lesson is about preserving your dignity when the world tempts you to trade it for attention. The Stoics believed that respect cannot be demanded, and it cannot be begged, it must be commanded through the way you carry yourself. Seneca once said, "He who despises himself, is despised by others." Meaning, the way you treat yourself is the instruction manual for how the world treats you. So before we go further, here's something worth remembering: if you stay with me till the end of the story, you'll learn the mindset shift that makes people feel your presence without you having to prove it. Because power, real power, doesn't shout. It simply is. Most people think strength means domination, loudness, or control. But Stoicism teaches something far deeper. True power is the ability to remain centered while others lose theirs. It's walking into a room without needing to be the loudest voice, because your calm already speaks louder than their noise. Think of all the moments you've felt the urge to explain yourself, to justify your choices, defend your silence, or convince others that your path is valid. That urge comes from insecurity, not truth. A secure person doesn't need everyone to understand them, they only need to understand themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The meaning is simple but brutal: stop performing goodness, and start living it. Don't lower your standards just to make others comfortable. Don't beg for recognition from people who have no idea what your journey cost you. Because every time you explain your worth to someone who can't see it, you lower yourself to their level of understanding. You trade your peace for a conversation that doesn't deserve you. The Stoics would say walk away quietly. That silence is not weakness, it's control. The more you stop explaining, the more people start wondering. The quieter your confidence becomes, the louder its impact grows. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer defend, you embody. And that shift, the invisible transition from needing respect to commanding it, is what makes you truly important. Have you ever noticed how people who can't control their emotions are the easiest to control? How a single insult, a small rejection, or a passing comment can throw most people into chaos? It's because emotional control isn't just peace of mind, it's power. And that brings us to the third Stoic lesson: master yourself, or you'll always be mastered by others. The Stoics believed that your mind is your kingdom. Whoever can disturb it, owns it. Epictetus taught that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgment of them. Yet most of us hand over our emotional control to the world without realizing it. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and our peace is gone. Someone disagrees with us, and we spiral. We become slaves to every passing feeling: anger, envy, insecurity, without ever questioning who's holding the strings. But imagine, for a moment, a person who doesn't react. Not because they're numb, but because they're aware. Imagine the strength of someone who can look chaos in the face and remain still inside. That's not weakness, that's mastery. That's what the Stoics called apatheia, the state of being unshaken by external storms. The world will test you. People will provoke you. Circumstances will try to pull you out of your character. And that's when the choice appears: react like everyone else, or respond like someone who owns themselves. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, loss, and endless criticism as emperor, yet he wrote calmly in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Every time you react impulsively, you tell the world that it controls you. But every time you pause, breathe, and choose your response, you remind it that you are the one in command. That moment of silence between emotion and reaction, that's where freedom lives. Stoicism doesn't tell you to suppress emotion, it teaches you to govern it. Anger can fuel you if you guide it. Pain can shape you if you understand it. Discipline isn't cold, it's clarity. It's the decision to stay composed when everything around you is burning. And people notice that. They may not say it, but deep down, everyone respects the one who cannot be shaken. So the third Stoic lesson is this: never lower yourself by losing control of your emotions. Don't let others pull you into their chaos, make them rise to your calm. Don't give your peace away for free. The person who rules themselves is already greater than the one who rules nations. Because at the end of the day, the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest one. It's the one who can sit in silence and still feel powerful. Have you ever felt drained after trying to fix everyone around you, constantly explaining, helping, defending, and saving people who would never do the same for you? You tell yourself it's kindness, but deep down, you know it's exhaustion disguised as virtue. That's because you've forgotten one of the hardest truths of Stoicism: you are not responsible for anyone's peace but your own. The fourth Stoic lesson is about protecting your energy, learning to walk away without guilt, and understanding that saying no is not cruelty, it's wisdom. The Stoics taught that compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Epictetus said, "Wanting other people to be as you wish is madness. Wanting yourself to be as you wish, that's wisdom." And he was right. The moment you start trying to manage the behavior, opinions, or emotions of others, you start abandoning yourself. You see, most people don't drain you because they're evil. They drain you because you never built the walls that guard your peace. You gave too much, stayed too long, explained too often. You made yourself small just to fit into places that never deserved your presence in the first place. Stoicism calls this the misuse of virtue when your goodness begins to hurt you. Imagine your peace as a flame. It's bright, steady, alive. But every time you try to light someone else's torch while neglecting your own, the fire weakens. Soon, you're standing in darkness, holding a burnt match, wondering why no one stayed to keep you warm. The Stoics would tell you, protect your flame. Don't hand it to everyone who reaches for it. There's a kind of power in quiet detachment in helping when it's right, but knowing when to walk away. You don't owe endless access to anyone. You don't have to respond to every message, attend every argument, or explain every boundary. The more selective you become with your energy, the more powerful you grow. Because when you stop scattering yourself, you become impossible to shake. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's not just morality, it's focus. It's how you conserve your strength for what truly matters. Every time you refuse to engage in meaningless drama or petty conflict, you elevate yourself above it. You stop lowering yourself to the chaos of others and rise into your own calm authority. So the fourth Stoic lesson is this: never lower yourself by overgiving, over-explaining, or over-fighting. Protect your mind like it's sacred because it is. Give from overflow, not emptiness. Help with strength, not guilt. Love with boundaries, not sacrifice. Because the moment you start guarding your peace as fiercely as your pride, that's the moment your life begins to align with wisdom. Have you ever wondered why so many people settle for lives that feel smaller than they should? They follow the crowd, mimic others' dreams, and measure themselves by someone else's standards, never realizing that true importance is not given, it is claimed. The fifth Stoic lesson is the hardest, and the most liberating: own your life, or it will own you. Stoicism teaches that the only life you truly control is your own. Everything else, the praise, the criticism, the chaos of the world, is beyond your jurisdiction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Yet, most of us live as if our lives are dictated by external forces, constantly lowering ourselves to match expectations that aren't ours. To never lower yourself again, you must accept the full responsibility of your own choices. Every time you let fear dictate your actions, or let comfort blind you to growth, you give away your importance. You trade freedom for the illusion of safety, respect for convenience, and significance for familiarity. True Stoic wisdom is brutal because it demands honesty. Stop blaming others. Stop waiting for permission. Stop shrinking in fear of judgment. Imagine a person standing at a crossroads. One path is safe, familiar, and crowded. The other is uncertain, challenging, and empty. The first promises approval but little fulfillment. The second demands courage but offers mastery. Stoicism teaches you to choose the path that honors your values, not the expectations of the crowd. Every decision to act according to your principles, every moment you refuse to compromise your integrity, is a claim of your own importance. But claiming your life doesn't mean rejecting the world, it means navigating it with authority over yourself. You become selective with your commitments, deliberate with your actions, and unshakable in your purpose. Your presence, your choices, and your voice gain weight not because you demand it, but because you live it. And people notice even if silently. The world respects those who respect themselves first. This final lesson is also the culmination of the previous four. When you refuse to seek validation, guard your dignity, control your emotions, and protect your energy, you create a life that cannot be lowered by anyone else. You become the embodiment of importance because your worth is self-determined. No insult, no dismissal, no societal expectation can diminish what you have claimed. So the fifth Stoic lesson is this: never lower yourself by allowing your life to be directed by anyone other than yourself. Own your choices. Claim your values. Stand firm in your purpose. Importance is not granted, it is forged in the steady fire of self-mastery. Because the moment you live fully by your principles, honor your own path, and refuse to shrink for anyone else, you step into a life that is truly yours. Now that we've explored the 5 Stoic lessons individually, it's time to see how they come together to transform a life. Have you ever felt stuck, as if no matter what you do, nothing changes? The truth is, transformation isn't found in a single action, it's built in the way you live every day, consistently applying small choices that honor your worth, protect your peace, and demand your dignity. When you integrate these lessons, never seeking approval, guarding your self-respect, mastering your emotions, protecting your energy, and claiming ownership of your life, you create an invisible armor that others cannot pierce. Your mind becomes your fortress. Your actions carry weight without force. And your presence commands attention, not through noise, but through quiet authority. It's tempting to think that self-mastery is only for extraordinary circumstances, that we only need these lessons when facing crisis or conflict. But the Stoics knew the opposite. It is in ordinary life, in the daily choices we make, that greatness is forged. Every time you refuse to lower yourself in a minor disagreement, every time you protect your time and energy, every time you choose principle over approval, you're strengthening a life that cannot be shaken. Most people spend their lives reacting to the world, being tossed by others' opinions, overwhelmed by emotions, drained by endless obligations. But by living the Stoic way, you flip the script. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer bend, you stand. You no longer hand your power away, you claim it. And that is where true importance resides, not in wealth, fame, or recognition, but in the unshakable certainty of who you are and what you stand for. Remember, this is not an overnight transformation. It is a process. And each day you apply these lessons, you reinforce your boundaries, sharpen your judgment, and grow in quiet power. You become someone who does not lower themselves because they do not need to. Someone whose life speaks for itself, whose actions prove more than words ever could, and whose presence is respected even when silent. The reward of living by these 5 Stoic lessons is profound. You gain clarity, confidence, and control. You stop letting the world define you, and start defining yourself. You stop shrinking for others, and start expanding into your true potential. And in doing so, you become, finally, someone truly important, not because the world says so, but because you know it to be true. Now that you understand the 5 Stoic lessons and how they build on each other, it's important to reflect on the real-world consequences of ignoring them. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to slip back into old habits? One small compromise, one thoughtless reaction, one moment of overgiving, and suddenly, the progress you work so hard for begins to unravel. That is the silent danger the Stoics warned us about, complacency disguised as comfort. Most people fail not because they lack knowledge, but because they fail to apply it consistently. They read the wisdom, nod in agreement, and then return to the same patterns that lower their self-respect. They allow criticism to chip away at their confidence, emotions to dictate their choices, and others' expectations to pull them off course. Each surrender may seem insignificant in isolation, but over time, it erodes the foundation of dignity and importance. This is why repetition and discipline are at the heart of Stoicism. A lesson isn't truly learned until it is lived every day, in every interaction, in every decision. When you wake up, remind yourself that your worth is self-contained. When someone provokes you, choose calm over reaction. When energy is demanded of you, give selectively, and preserve what is essential. When faced with fear or uncertainty, act in accordance with your values, not the crowd. These small, consistent acts are what build a life that cannot be lowered by circumstance or opinion. It's also critical to understand the ripple effect of self-mastery. By holding yourself to these standards, you influence not only your life but the lives of those around you. People respond to strength, not force. they are drawn to those who command their own respect and radiate calm authority. In essence, by refusing to lower yourself, you teach others how to treat you and, more importantly, how to respect themselves. And here lies the ultimate reward of applying the Stoic lessons: liberation. You are no longer at the mercy of fickle opinions, emotional storms, or endless obligations. Your life is yours, fully and unapologetically. You gain clarity, you gain strength, and you gain the ability to navigate the world with quiet certainty. Every challenge becomes a test, every interaction a choice, and every moment an opportunity to live by your principles. So, remember, knowledge alone is meaningless without action. The Stoic path is walked daily, through consistent choices that honor your dignity, protect your peace, and assert your value. This is how you ensure that you never lower yourself again, how you claim your importance, and how you live a life that resonates with true strength. Have you ever paused to consider what it truly means to be important? Not in the shallow sense of recognition, status, or approval, but in the deep, unwavering sense that no one can diminish who you are? Many live their lives chasing the world's definition of value, never realizing that true importance is forged in solitude, discipline, and self-mastery. This is the culmination of the Stoic journey. We've explored the place where theory meets lived experience. When you internalize the lessons of Stoicism, something remarkable happens: the external world loses its power to shake you. Criticism, rejection, and chaos become background noise instead of anchors pulling you down. The temptation to lower yourself in order to be liked, to be safe, or to be comfortable vanishes. You operate from a different level, a quiet authority that is visible, not because you flaunt it, but because it radiates naturally from someone who refuses to compromise their values. Consider this: the average person will spend their life reacting to events, opinions, and pressures. They bend for comfort, they argue for recognition, and they surrender their peace to people who cannot appreciate it. The Stoic, however, moves differently. Each choice is intentional. Each action is measured. Each surrender is deliberate, never to the whims of others, only to principles that honor the self. And that is the subtle yet undeniable power of never lowering yourself. Living this way is not easy. The world rewards compliance and punishes authenticity at times. You will face ridicule, dismissal, and moments when your self-respect is tested. But every challenge becomes an opportunity to reaffirm your inner sovereignty. Every insult becomes a chance to remain composed. Every demand on your energy becomes a moment to choose wisely. Through these repeated exercises, importance is not claimed in words or appearances, it is earned in action and in the unshakable clarity of the mind. By integrating the 5 lessons: rejecting approval seeking, guarding dignity, mastering emotion, protecting energy, and owning your life, you create a life that is fundamentally resistant to compromise. Others may try to pull you down, circumstances may threaten to overwhelm you, but the core of who you are remains untouchable. This is the ultimate reward of Stoic practice: a life lived not for others, but fully and unapologetically for yourself. And it is here that the real transformation happens, when you finally understand that being important is not about what others see or say, but about how faithfully you live your principles. The Stoic path does not make life easier, it makes life real, honest, and powerful. And those who walk it, step by step, day by day, discover a strength that is invisible to the world but undeniable to themselves.